Okay, so in today's video, instead of me making up things as I go, I have an actual expert. Our senior applications engineer, Kilian Shambaugh, is on the call. And apart from being our applications engineer and sort of expert in all, he's our super geek when it comes to Python, which is the topic of the day today. So, Killian, maybe we start with how do customers, use Python, and what's your experience been?
You can use Python in a lot of different ways, with regards to Polytech stuff in general. So Python allows anyone to access the files created from, measurements that they've taken, or they can also, use the systems with Python on the acquisition side. So you can do, automation through Python in acquisition or in post-processing,
Got it.
which is pretty nice.
And by acquisition, you mean we are talking scanning LDVs, single point LDVs?
Yep, yeah. So you can use Python to interface with PSVSoft as well as VibSoft. So scanning and single point measurements, and pretty much any function that exists in those two software programs, you can automate those things through Python.
Now, what if I want to marry different things? So what if I have an external function generator that also needs to be controlled while I am using our, vibrometer?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, external function generator. So Python is nice because there's so many libraries that exist for it. There's even a lot of nowadays a lot of people are doing like AI, machine learning stuff, or computer vision, and all these different things. You can integrate anything that you can do with Python into, kind of into the line of an automation script that you use to control Polytech systems.
Got it. So it could be as a tool for automation, but it could just be sort of extending on the capabilities of what the bare bones software can do. So you kind
Right.
of
Yeah. Like
expand. Yeah.
let's say you have you want to run like a linearity test, and you want to just use, only Polytech software, only Polytech hardware. You can do that easily by, saying in a for loop, you want to scan, and then increase the voltage once the scan's done, the generator voltage, and then rescan, and then, increment the voltage through maybe, let's say, 10 scans. And then
That's
that'll
a good one.
produce 10 files for you, 10 scan files, each with the, you know, um, evenly spaced voltages.
That's a good example. Yeah. I know we have customers who are doing, that kind of parametric study or even timed acquisition, curve fitting, all kinds of stuff. Okay. So that's a good one. Now, so on the post-processing side, can you give a couple of examples? What comes to mind? What I mean,
Yeah,
based on what we
sure. I
have
mean,
done.
you can basically, take data that you've produced with, let's say you did an automated measurement like this, and now you have a directory full of 100 scan files. And let's say there's, some, you want to look at the mapping of total harmonic distortion across your scan. You could write a little script that'll read in each of the SVD scan files, do that processing, whatever, however you like to write it. And then once you have a result, paste that result even back into the scan file so
Mhm.
that you can look at it through the Polytech software.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now you had one example you wanted to show
Yeah,
quickly.
sure.
If you
I can share my screen real quick.
share
So
your screen.
for this is just kind of a what up. So this was just a single point time domain data set of like a little impact, let's say a hammer impact, with a little bit of a ring down. So what if we want to take this and we want to do something that you can't do in the native Polytech software, like, spectrogram? You can do that pretty
Mm.
easily in Python. So in Python here, I've taken that same data set, and just a little, written a little GUI app with some sliders where I can, read in the data and then adjust settings, so that I can look at the result, however I want to. Yeah, could have done
Very
filtering on
cool.
this, or, anything you want. The sky's the limit, really.
Very good example. Yeah. Yeah, I think this gives a very good and sort of overview to someone who's sort of familiar with Python but hasn't explored how to exploit it when it comes to Polytech, vibrometers, or data. Let's end with like, what kind of resources do we have as Polytech that we can offer to our customers when it comes to Python?
Yeah, so the nice thing about the Polytech software is that it's accessible through any kind of programming language because it uses COM, component object model, in order to do that interfacing. So, say you want to access automation functions through Python. You could in Python basically call the corresponding PSV acquisition function. It'll give you an object, and then you have through Python access to any methods and properties that object has, and then you can say PSV acquisition object dot autofocus, and then it'll autofocus the sensor head, the laser.
Okay, so the COM object library is one resource,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe you won't say it yourself, so I'll have to say it that you have written a very nice tutorial as well for someone who wants to get started with
Yeah.
Python.
Yeah. I've written just kind of like a little PowerPoint that goes over, even the most kind of basic introductory stuff. If you've never used Python before, it goes over like, even just data types and, for loops and while loops and, Booleans and any kind of thing you'd want, up to, and then going past that, like, how to interface with Polytech files, kind of, some pulling in data and then some automation things as well.
Yeah. So if anyone wants that, they can contact us and we can set them up. And I believe we have a few examples in like when someone installs the PSV software. Do we have a couple of Python
Yeah, we're
scripts
planning
as well,
on
right?
we're planning on making more. There's currently one Python example that comes pre-installed with PSV
Hmm.
soft. I think maybe VibSoft too. Actually I think it's Polytech file access that it comes with.
Got it.
So Polytech file access has examples for Python, MATLAB, Visual Basic, a bunch of different programming languages
Yeah.
are in there, some examples. But
So
we
we have
plan
quite
on
some
making.
resources and
Yeah.
and growing. And yeah, I mean, if anyone has questions, just send us a note, info@polytech.com, and we can hook you up, and maybe Kilian can just personally help you if needed. Thanks a lot, Kilian. We'll end here. And
All right.
until next time, we'll geek out about something else, okay?
Awesome.